B2B sales isn't a skill you can just pick up by attending a workshop. It takes practice, dedication, and time to master. The problem is that the training most salespeople get isn't effective. Over 90% of workshop and seminar content is forgotten within 30 days. However, there is a better way. Unlike other sales training programs, our Momentium system combines traditional teaching techniques, an interactive sales simulator, and video conference coaching. Allowing salespeople to learn and practice new skills is what sets us apart from other training providers. Our training programs have proven to be more effective than any workshop or seminar. We improve sales forces, guaranteed. Each week, your salespeople will complete one training module, which consists of several lessons and simulated sales calls. Each module requires learners to learn new concepts, practice those concepts in simulated sales calls, and confirm their understanding in recap sessions and video conference coaching. First, the Coaching Academy contains short, interactive, and focused lessons that will teach salespeople the skills and techniques they need to be successful. We devote time to core concepts and advanced tools every salesperson needs to know. Every concept is delivered one at a time, ensuring salespeople have a chance to practice concepts before moving on to new ones. After learning a new skill, salespeople must complete a series of 3 lifelike sales calls where they open, develop, and close a deal.
Christy, what do you think is the single biggest development opportunity for your sales force?
Our team members are tech experts who traditionally relied on their tech knowledge to sell. More and more, we are dealing with non-IT people who need a different approach.
Momentium provides learners the opportunity to put techniques into practice immediately. This develops better habits leading to greater sales success. After successfully completing the sales simulation in each module, you'll review the key factors that led to the success in those sales calls. This guided reflection is crucial when it comes to creating long-term mastery. Beyond being the most effective sales training system available today, organizations that use Momentium enjoy several other benefits as well. The online training lets us track and record activity within each module. We use this information to benchmark your team's performance and show you how each of your salespeople are improving.
So I would now like to introduce our second keynote speaker, Mr. Malik Imran Ijaz, who's been a business leader with 25 plus years of sales, management, and professional services experience in the technology, IT and telecom, that is, and services industry with Fortune 500 companies like Microsoft, Intel, Alcatel, Zones, and local systems integrators like TechAccess. He has built businesses and led teams selling and implementing solutions for some of the largest B2B customers as well as the small and medium segments. Currently, he is working as Director of Sales in Zones LLC. He also teaches and has taught graduate courses in project management, MIS, and HR at the university level. Headed HR for several years during establishment and growth periods. He spends his spare time working towards establishment of PMIs, which is Project Management Institute of Pakistan's first chapter in Pakistan at Islamabad. He has been acknowledged as a chartered member and was elected as the first chapter general secretary. Now with this, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Mr. Malik Imran. Assalamu alaikum. Imran sahab, how are you? Can you hear us?
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Perfect.
Thank you,
How about
Khan,
yourself?
for the kind introduction.
You're welcome. Anytime.
And it was a
It's a
very useful first talk, and I think sets the stage really nicely for what I plan to discuss.
Absolutely.
And I think I'm going to focus in on two key areas. And one is the change that we find ourselves in. And this is a change that most of us were not prepared for.
Yes.
And so that it has certain demands from the leaders, and it has certain demands from the sales teams themselves as companies figure out what is going to be their standard operating model.
Absolutely. So with this, Imran Sahib, floor is yours, and
Okay.
all the best with your keynote. And then I'll
All right.
catch up with you after this keynote speaking sessions are done. All right.
Sure. Sure.
Floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, COVID hit us really out of the blue like a bolt of lightning. And as a consequence of COVID, what has happened is that the digitalization move, which started about 2 years back, suddenly got upfront, right up in our faces for everyone to figure out what they're going to do with it. And this, I think, was it eventually may turn out to be a blessing in disguise when everyone has had to helter-skelter gather their forces, see what processes need to be changed. A lot of those changes have been fast-tracked. A lot of those changes have been funded, and they've found management support that have been struggling up until today. So as sales leaders, there are three things that jump up upon us as we find ourselves working with teams who are working from home. We find ourselves working with customers who are not face to face, they are screen to screen or mostly over the telephone. And we also find ourselves dealing with processes that have not been matured, but we have to adapt and we have to move. So it is really it is something that no one can say that they expected and they were ready. However, what we are seeing around is that a lot of the companies have really adapted the new normal very quickly. They are moving and to some of the things that my previous speaker was pointing out. You find that school teachers have adapted this new method of communication very well. In terms of our sales teams, I find three things that really jump up and they claim attention. One is communication itself, both with the customer as well as within the teams, has assumed new importance. What was happening was we had very strict processes, we had very set programs in place for ensuring that we reach out to the customers and we are able to convey the offerings and find the needs and all of those things. But right now, I think if people thought it was okay to communicate with their teams at a team level every alternate day, probably now they need to communicate with the teams every day and maybe twice a day. And the reason for that is because while leaders are dealing with uncertainty, the field force is also dealing with uncertainty. And that uncertainty needs to be addressed as we go along on a daily basis. Things can change, things are evolving. So every day, new questions are being asked and new answers are being sought. So it is important that that communication remains live and remains busy. The other thing is a typical mindset that you also find in people is that, oh, because there is COVID, so there's not going to be any business activity and there's not going to be anything that we used to do. That too is something that is very variable from vertical to vertical, from team to team, and from customer to customer. There are customers who in this pandemic have really invested and have upgraded their systems, have invested and uh, have become ready for the new normal. So companies like us have actually uh, been able to provide some of those facilities to those customers and some of those solutions to fast track their move into the digital world. And that to me is an opportunity in this entire pandemic. And there is, the cloud has a silver lining, and we are hopeful that hopefully in the short to medium term, things will start moving back into high speed gear. But for now, like I said, the communication between the teams is very important. The communication with the customer is even more important to find out what it is that they need help for. And like someone said, that you never forget two faces: the face that helped you when you were in trouble, and the face that turned away when you were in trouble. Now, as I look at that very valid observation for all my customers, I find that this is a time that they need help. As sales teams, we are always focused on our quota, we're focused on our numbers, but this is the time to really listen to the customer and find out what it is that they need, and then go after for that solution, and then find that solution and bring it back to the customer and help them out. And really, we've seen our relationships grow stronger with some of the customers. We've seen our engagement grow better with some of the customers. But in order for us to be able to do all these things, the second core theme, the first theme being communication, the second core theme that jumps up at me is around agility. And by agility, I mean being able to really turn the tide, being able to really focus in on what is being said, interpreting it, and acting on it, regardless of how or what we used to do in the past. That knowledge is useful. That knowledge can come handy in some cases, but we cannot expect to apply all of that just the way it is in the new situation. So having that flexibility and having that agility in mind and in approach is extremely critical for sales team to be able to be successful. The third key area and the third key theme that jumps up on me is the growth mindset. I think every salesperson needs to narrow down the opportunity to his specific area, and they do not need to overwhelm everything with the broad statement that because of COVID, nothing is happening, or because of the COVID, no business is growing. You will, there's Zoom and there's Teams and there's all of those things which are growing and which have found unfathomable demand on their systems. But even in medium segments, in enterprise segments, as well as in small segments, you find growth opportunities within your customer set. Now, what is most important in that, while we're searching for those opportunities, what is most important is you look for that trusted relationship that you have, because it is difficult to establish trust in these moving times with new prospects. It is, however, quite okay and quite convenient to focus in on your existing trusted relationships and try and expand the business over there. So best to look in the short term, best to look for growth within your existing customers, and then go out and look for any low-hanging fruit that you can. That approach is going to help your sales leaders. That approach is going to help the decision makers have some growth numbers coming in the short term, and then continue to focus on how you're building your business and how you're growing your LOB, your revenue, your margins over the medium term. So very important, focus in on your customers, continue to remain open, remain agile, remain flexible to doing things in a new manner, and then communicating. In these circumstances, I, for one, would say over communication will be better than under communication, because the more you engage, the more you discuss, the more ideas open up, and the more issues get surfaced which need to be addressed. So these are the three key themes that I wanted to put forward for the sales leaders as well as for the sales teams, that you focus, you communicate, you remain flexible, and you focus on all opportunities. Do not go with the broad statement that COVID has hurt business. Yes, acknowledged, and we as leaders need to move forward, having acknowledged that yes, there is a reset, yes, there is a new normal, but let's quickly find our feet in that new normal. Let's quickly find our direction and then move with that direction. So with that, I look forward to question and answer session, and I look forward to addressing any key areas that need to be looked into.
So thank you so much, Malik Imran Saab. That is a great touch points that he has discussed in his keynote, addressing his keynote topic, which is competing in an uncertain COVID-19 world, where he's talked about agility, growth mindset, focusing into the existing relationships, the most trusted relationships, and then, of course, communication to the challenges with itself, how to build a bond, and perhaps over communication would be better than under communication. So that was Malik Imran Ijaz. So thank you very much. We'll look forward to bringing you back in the panel discussion.